Here we are, here I am, back to the music again. Alright, let's see here. Here I go. Alright. Now, what I was observing is that for some reason it seems like the Ignitus brand has a good concept, probably because they manufacture it, of what butane does at different levels. So working off of that principle, this is sort of a theory here, but it's most likely correct. Different levels of, like how we were talking about before for QLED screens, have different levels of concentration of different gases, let alone butane. So this is just regular butane right here, no concentration level. And I would really kind of ignore the colors of the can with this one. The point that we need to get across is that there's this bluish, purplish hue, this reddish into cranberry and white, and a little silver streak sort of in between from the gas itself, be like chromatically aberrating. Now, that's what you would call kind of such a low-level screen, it's not even worth it. You haven't used much butane. I don't really consider that much of an option when it comes to like butane. You're getting such basic colors with just these colors of these flames here that who really gives a shit, in my opinion. And I guess the yellow could represent the, because I've seen butane go into like the clear filler of my spicy dew, and it does have a sort of yellowish hue. So I guess you do have yellow, purplish, blue, red, and white with a little chromatic streak there. But you wouldn't want to do this when I already talked about before, there's this 5x concentrate, and you get all those colors but richer. Like you can see on the box and the concepts here of what the gases that make up butane do with 5x concentrate. They have these beautiful purples and UV hues at the bottom, going up into pinks and into strawberry reds and cranberry reds, into bronzish yellows and yellows, all the way up to greens up at the top. It's a beautiful effect, and it only requires 5 times concentrate of butane for a gas screen. You got any comments?
I don't know. We've kind of talked about it before. I just like the artwork.
Yeah, you can also, like I said, because it has so much UV color, kind of get twice the potential out of any bit of butane, because it'll put off UV light through the UV sort of spectrum of certain gases already. And then you can get, you know, bright cerulean blue colors like it shows there.
I was just going to say the lower concentrate of butane, there is a method of like distilling it into like powdered dyes or something.
Oh, because it's just not concentrated at all.
Yeah, then you can use that to enhance the dyes, or you can use those dyes then in fireworks.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That's actually because all the fireworks are rotting because they're all made out of garbage. Yeah. We need new fireworks, and that's...
Because I've been staring at fake fireworks, you know, on our butane screen. I'm just like, why don't we just bring that to real life?
Yeah, I definitely agree. So, yeah, it's like fireworks technology in a screen, basically, kind of lame, but, you know, it still works and it's still good looking through the method you're talking about. But that means that, like, you have to explain the science that we're explaining right now, and also fuck you, pay me, in order to sell the product so people know what they're getting. So we've already established that because Adobe is a Mexican house and, like, they used to use cactus dyes in that and stuff, so I'm assuming that's what a lot of them are doing. Certain flowers and cactuses and things, traditional things that tribal people from around the West would use and into Mexico and stuff for their clothes and baskets and things. Well, that's like a very organic color, but it's very flat. It doesn't have any chrominance to the color. So you're getting one-dimensional color, and if you have bad eyes in a certain way, that may be all you want, and then a screen for you and other people when you're working on artwork or projects, that's what you want, is like a falsified, even chromatic effect through like a certain sort of like cell-shaded look of shadows and usage of light for your artwork or images or CG. But it has its limitations still. But it is very effective. It just doesn't have that extreme, this lowest level of butane, what was I going to say, like color brightness, which is really useful because when it goes beyond real life color brightness, yet still, you have these effects where you can have such bright screens in movie theaters like we already talked about. And that's the goal of us here, especially with orange acid, you know, CCD gels, that you don't have to project, then there's no room for it going to low frame rate and erroring in any way, in my opinion, due to the fucking people working there erroring it so that they can try to watch it at like split frame, half interleave down the middle, like terrible quality, and still see it because their eyeballs are shit. But moving on.
Well, the luridness of the can's red there, it's not really red because it's missing the bloody evil depths, but it's like the cartoony fun part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's got like cranberry disguised with darker tones. They're trying their best to represent what different colors of gases do at different concentration levels of butane. And so the flames on the front are a really good indicator. Between the red and blue of the various gases in there, you have this tiny little sliver. I don't know if you can see it from all the way over there. That is chrominance.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to really punch at you very much. See the little...
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I was just saying. So, you know, it's within the Adobe RGB spectrum when you make them dyes, like you're saying, to supplement other dyes. Yet it can still have the yellowish gas in there to make it have, like, basically that gold signal input that's classic of a lot of cameras even today, that was established in older cameras where they have two sound supports and one gold. So it's more like the bridge point, the lowest point of butane between old cameras that use too many gold processors and come out too red frequently, and the newer things that work differently.
Good point, yeah. So you could have a camera with different modes to emphasize different concentrates of butane in the future. So, like, you have classic mode where it's like this mode.
I agree.
Different color palettes, you know?
Yeah. I guess we'll be moving on here. I guess the one thing I was going to say more about this is you can always mix different upper atmosphere gases to some extent with butane, as long as, you know, for example, I don't know what butane reacts with. It might explode when exposed to, like, neon, for example, because it's too electrolyzed. But oxygen in a highly excited form would probably be okay, you know. Different types of gas screens.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah.
Oxygen and helium, maybe? I don't know. That's what we were talking about before. That's why we said it was...
Yeah.
You can't do everything with butane. But butane contains so many elements that's why I was saying at 5x concentrate, it's breaking down into all sorts of gases from all sorts of minerals and crystals and things, especially if it's from a valley like ours.
Yep.
Here's the 7 times concentrate. Now, I'm pretty sure we just invented this backward in time from what we were talking about here. There was those tablets that are like monitors or screens or whatever that you can use to, you know, do stuff on, and they say that they have 99 to 100% accurate color or more, but only for the spectrum. Remember, the spectrum that it's using. So they're 100% accurate to real life or more for this less complex spectrum, because concentrating things more isn't always better. You have brighter purples and, you know, all these like UV colors and stuff, but you're limited as to how you use them and how they mix now once you get to 7 times concentrate, because it goes into that brighter blue easier with green, but there's no bronze-ish, greenish, yellowish, goldish hues anymore.
The chrominance feel also shifts, like, so that you get a different, you know how like they make soft filter movies where everything's glowy because it's a happy, silly movie or whatever. Well, At 7X, you can clearly see that the gases that have more of a metallic feel are like both sharpening towards electrical while also staying fey and immaterial looking with light. So that means that's what you get, you know?
Yeah, what you see is what you get here. And with all of them, I guess if they concentrate into a dense enough space, that's why they always have that like ignitus on the can here, this silvery sort of gray hue. That's why I said that butane seems to be one of the most effective for even representing video games or things that are also using gray to gray technology. So they make it the most basically easily viewable and portable from NVIDIA to an AMD system, a gas screen. It's very versatile. Like how, once again, we were talking about how the lowest level sort of bridges the gap between old footage and newer footage in a certain way so that it's, you know, more easily viewable. The 5X is good all around. The 7X is good for certain types of scenarios and certain animation styles, like the Multiverse of Madness with it's mostly this theme in our Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah.
These colors.
True.
It doesn't really rely very heavily on the 5X's bronze, gold, yellow,
even though
green.
people liked our orange edit of it.
Yeah, the orange edit was taken off of my computer. This is why I keep saying, fuck you, pay me. And used for the movie. And I asked for an America Chavez, even though I suspect that they've replaced her because they have somebody else's head floating around her pop collar the entire movie long.
Yep.
Well, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I was looking for somebody because there's, you know, Mexican fire opals, and those are in the soil, in sand, in places, and the easiest way to get true color to your skin and your body to be able to render things well, because it really is like the wand that chooses the wizard, Harry, or the sword that chooses the stone, and you are the stone with the gems to make it work. She was supposed to provide the red and click, you know, like on the bar to make there be red in the movie. So she supplied that fire opal flame red and like, you know, yellow and all those orange colors, because those are the main colors of fire opals: red, yellow, orange.
Yeah, so the red was so punchy in the movie, and while she didn't punch much because she did all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, she was only supposed to punch her once also as well. That's the one change that I knew that they would do because it's porn. And somehow they always get nerdy, everyone, after fucking, and then think that they need to do something with multiple blows or action or something. And that's how you get overwrought action scenes, is people being too porny, and then it turns into pornography, the action itself, instead of a moral message and her believing in herself. It turns into John Cena time.
Think about the original...
Punch, punch, kick stupidity.
Yeah. The original woman who's doing the movie, and how her porn scene gets cut because somebody else redoes her stuff in a green screen environment, and somebody else comes in, puts a head on that woman. So the original woman, even if somehow her coloring is being provided for the movie, it's still like she's not even there. She's under so many layers.
Exactly. I just have to say that. Her head's floating around all over the place. It's soft-edged on the sides, and that's not just due to acne. Come on now.
Yep.
Nobody cares. That's why I wanted a teenager. I wanted that feeling that people could attach to of that age. Because I knew by the time they even got underway in the production, she'd already be like 18.
Yep.
Because I asked for like a 13-year-old, but I knew that they were going to get somebody older, and then I knew that they were, because of the context of the altar. Anyways, I said, you know, back then, because I was just saying things, because I was like, well, here's the direction I'd take it. Then she's like a sexy teenager, sort of. I'd prefer to be 16, but then we came up with porn. So who really cares? Everybody's a criminal. You all fucking do freakish things and pretend that you're not.
Well, 2017 was supposed to be... We said, well, if they immediately make the movie, it probably won't come out for us to see at the end of the year. But then it'll be out there floating, you know, having been made by some Mexicans and whoever else. Then, you know, everybody else, all the populace of brats will sit on it and sit on it year after year, whining and twitching, till they finally get, you know, some other people to get it made and replace the sex scene with nothing. And there you go. It's finally out, you know?
Yeah, it took them 5 fucking years.
Yep.
I don't really appreciate being abused for having things stolen in the privacy of my own home from me.
Yeah, imagine that. Because we dared to make up plots, then they thought they could bump us off. Because then they could make it only after we were dead. That's
Freakish.
how insane they are. Then they decided that they abused us so much that we must secretly be dead and we're just bluffing. That's how dumb they are.
My response is, I'm gonna have to shoot you if you fucking bother me anymore. Somebody already agreed with me outside
No,
of my
I've
house.
just been stuffing them into my furnace out there.
Yeah, exactly. But my point is, before he does that, I'm gonna have to shoot them. Because they always threaten to shoot me. And somebody's already allegedly been punished for it. But, you know, when somebody fails and these degenerates around here
strangest thing happens.
they just kill them when they fail.
When somehow they manage to shoot me when they say they're going to the few times, or they actually are going to shoot even, then I just take a bolt or two, don't give a fuck, grab them, squeeze their neck, break it, drag them over while they're still alive, throw them into the furnace. I'm just talking about the last few weeks. And then as they die and scream in there, the bullets never happened. Then time rewinds, everything resets, and they're back on the road in their car as they rev their engine and drive off super fast.
Yeah, and there's already blue signs. If they're not here visiting somebody, then they can't be here. Stay the fuck out.
Yeah, so, I mean, I gotta get metaphysical here. Everybody's methane, and this valley's full of gas that eats them and disperses their methane, and yet all they do is come here as ghosts, as if it's their final mission jihad, to scream and die pointlessly in the most agony anyone could experience.
Yeah.
Total disillusionment of mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah, they get turned into butane, as all the gems, which are only in the sand and tiny particulates, as well as precious metals, all turn to the finest quality butane that's brought
That's
to
what
a
they get
factory
for
right over there.
magically trying to possess the valuable materials in their body and get something out of them.
Yeah. So here we have 11 times concentrate. At this point, most of the color has turned, it's so densified into like UV blacks, because all those UV colors you saw in the lower levels of butane concentrate, they're you know, just so densified that's basically why black light, it looks black or turns into like a darkish purple hue a lot of the time when they you know, use it in lights in rooms, even though the rooms start glowing blue off of a lot of the surfaces. And that's why you see this bluish like meshwork in black, because that's the type of colors you'll get out of it if you put it in a screen. Now, this, you're beginning to see why butane's so useful, because at this ratio, you now have at 11 times concentrate, just using butane from the right sources with a lot of gems in it and all that crap from the soil and all that. You have like the equivalency of like how we talked about, like a blacklight screen, you know, like how Grey to Grey can do blacklight well, but it makes blacklight out of this material as well. You can also do it out of a, you know, a mixed mixture, like all the upper atmosphere gases together can achieve the same effect and maybe better. But I'm just pointing out that butane can do it as well with just a higher concentration of itself, and then it's probably breaking down into those gases anyways as it reacts in your screen. So this has beautiful, beautiful blacks, perfect color gradients between them, because it's not OLED where there's individual pixels that are just off. It's gas, so it gradients right out of dark, perceived dark at least, because it's black light, into, so it can present you a good, you know, like supposedly OLED image and give you a good idea of what it does while still being gas. Like the full spectrum of colors, because then you can, you know, invert this blue into a red, and then you got red and blue, and then the black, you use it as an element, you know, as the gas is separated, to sort of shift those reds and blues into any color in between. Basically, you have to step it back down using the screen, and like elements of it or screens or something, in order to, like, I'd advise like an ionizing laser that only lets certain gases through. Fuck you, pay me. And then that like from the initial blacklight like backing that has a little bit of blue in it, because then it's like one of those standardized blue LED screens that a lot of people are used to, so it represents images that were edited on those well too. I'm seeing how I'm showing people how certain screens are all around upgrades.
Yeah, that's a good
for
point.
Editing format styles.
I gotta say though, 3D, like, think of like a hot frying pan. The lasers are like activating the gas based on what colors the lasers are sending out. Then the gas pops forward to take prominence in front.
Yeah, as it's pushed through
as
the
a
various
color.
filter screens.
Yeah.
And brought through with the lasers through ions.
To then take that color and enhance it and push it out at the audience for automatic 3D feel, you know?
Yeah, while still having all the shadowy depths that people like, but, you can adjust that too, because the screen can do anything technically, because it's butane, so you can bring out as much brights as you want or as much dark. This is another good, like, screen for matching up to other people's, like OLED screens with blacks, or people's gray to gray screens or things, because it's, you just step out the black into gray to gray, and that's even simpler. You just brighten zones.
Yeah, this would be really good to watch figure skating on the screen like this.
So now we have the final tier. I'll just go back one tier to show you. Through those laser effects, you can achieve from the 11 times concentrate this UV color if you have the right UV lasers going through, or a cyan colored laser like how we're talking through RGB, preferably all of them. And then through the 5x concentrate, you see you got even more dynamic colors. So if you have the lasers push even harder on a certain frequency, you can bring more butane ions forward to splash against yet another filter layer. And then you have even more dynamic colors by reducing the amount of concentration through the laser light.
Yeah.
Now we have ultimate butane, which is like 15x concentrate, 20x, somewhere around in that zone. I'm not sure. Now, at this point, it's perfect for gray to grays. It has the same concept. Like, you can, apparently when it's this refined, you can bring it into dyes like the original. So that but their blue is deeper and less purple. The red is more refined.
Yeah, the reason for that is because it actually admits it's refined down to single ions.
Yeah, and that looks like a gray gas, no matter what.
Yeah.
But the benefit here is that you see there's no more whites, and those are supposed to be symbolic of gray, sort of like gas look. And then you have, like the box is showing here, a chromatic aberration reflection, like it's almost a, metal reflection like any metal does.
Yeah, any of the colors you produce has an aberration like almost orange acid rainbowing.
Yeah, so this, at the ultimate level of butane, can represent those ultra brights. You see my screen can't, so I know it's not at this level yet, because that's a high level. You have to have that screen really pressurized.
Yeah, this is for a screen where you'd be pushing the gray to gray to dither out the color with the chrominance, luminance, or whatever.
Yeah, so this particular butane screen, that's why butane is obviously going to rule this market, even though there will be other supplementary screens with upper atmosphere gases or gas screens as well, just solely, because it can present so many different things.
Yeah.
It can present gray to gray, in a accurate format with more color than the traditional gray to gray technology we just talked about and came up with. And it can present QLED really well. And the really important part is it can do both, so you could have footage filmed on cameras idealized for both like an orange cam with a CCD sensor and a gray to gray camera, and this could represent both footages on it perfectly, so you know how to edit multiple categories.
Yeah, that's true. Well, it's all around awesome because it's got the black light still, and yeah.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't know how many panes of ionized material, polymer, whatever you'd have to place it through, shoot the lasers through to step it down is all I'm saying, to the point where you don't have to use some sort of gray to gray technology to get this 5x concentrate look.
Yeah.
It might be thick, but with how much people are working with membrane thin screens, I'm sure it would also just be flat as hell at this point.
Of course, but also it's so microtized that you automatically have to render it out at a much higher refresh. You know, we're finally forcing everyone back to dithering out refreshes at like 1,000 frames per second.
And that's
the
thing, is that once again, gas screens are rated at a certain refresh rate depending upon how active the gas is when ionized lasers go through them. You know, like how the sky is, particulates move around, anything moves. But that doesn't mean that that's accurate to traditional frame rates, because that's not truly a frame rate. The only thing, once again,
that's just the colors popping out of the gases moving around due to the ionizations of the lasers.
Yeah, so while that may be incredibly fast, you have to remember that the lasers, that's why I want everything accurately registered, how fast they did their, or if they're solid state and at a cool frequency, usually
and somehow
they use
pulse
blue
to
and
the next
cyan
color
lasers.
through the spectrum rather than ever turning off.
Yes.
That's preferred.
That's preferred. I don't
Because then that drags the gas through to the next spectrum, so your eyes feel like there's rich inner framing of other colors naturally, even if it's like a lower frame rate
production. And that's
production.
the benefit of butane, even above other gas screens, is that it reacts to lasers so well. It reacts to going through filtering so well with ioned light from lasers. It can take continuous lasers, and it looks better that way. And you can get higher frame rates, in my opinion, than any other screen, even though you have to count it as more of like a continuous ion stream, and you'd have to, literally on a screen, you'd have to say the ion, like gas reaction rate, and then like a measured out amount that supposedly is equal to frame rate, because nobody's going to understand this shit unless you explain things simply to them like that.
Well, yeah, you just factor out how the gas is reacting versus, a frame rate comparison. You hit the sweet spot where, the gas is popping at the speed that the frames are switching to the next color to represent the next bit of scene that's been filmed.
And that's the other thing. A lot of screens, even if they're really, really fast, will have color bleed or color residual, I'm not saying the ones we get. I've never gotten screens that bad. I always try to get the best for what it is. But like color leave behind and like bleed over and issues adjusting it fast enough for frame rates, that's been an issue in the past. And with gas, that's not a problem because the color is the same as each frame and it reacts as fast as the gas can react. So it's all one ratio, and that's why I promote gas screens. QLED screens are great. OLED have their category for people that are super blind and just want to stare at light and then just dark. But what they're really useful for, like I always say, is headsets. Personally, I prefer QLED gas for even headsets, but that black light so close to people's eyes may make them feel sick over time or make their eyes feel strained. It's just so close. Even if you had like a curved panel and no focuser and you have gas, that's why I was promoting this for VR, then you still don't have pixels because it's just in a plane, especially sandwiched between like orange polymer. But you'll still have the issue with so much light entering your eyes because black light is still light.
Well,
so OLED is more for, is all I'm saying, VR headsets at this point into the future.
Or I could just make up a new technology. So this gas is all graded gray style with that chrominance. So what you do is you just have a layer closer that's ionized to the user's eyes slightly, that like lowers that brightness and then pulls it into color through it going through the custom ionization to different colors from the gray to gray. So then, you get 3D color pop at you rather than extreme luminance or whatever they call it, chroma, whatever.
And that's why, because we've talked about it before, the layers should obviously be orange acid just because it always bumps the color brightness more, but it filters too. So then
naturally you can see the rainbowing matches orange pretty good.
Yeah, so it just makes it even more compatible when you have CCD layers. Then you can choose what metals, to sort of reflect and bounce the light to where it's not as directed and painful for each layer. So what you could really do in summation is have literally a layer for each type of gas. So you could arrange them different ways depending upon what you need. But if you, for example, wanted base matted colors, you could have, like Ammon was saying, this as the dye layer at like whatever the back or front and back, and then these are sandwiched in between, so they'll step it all the way through into solid colors that aren't overly bright, you know, 5,
mixes,
7x, 11x, and then ultimate at the back or something, or front, whatever you prefer.
Yeah, I mean, alternatively, because, you know, I'm an asshole, I'm just like, you just do it raw, and you just take all the concentrates, and you all equally mix them together, and then all those gases are just naturally pulled around even more frantically to reassemble to make your image like, you know, cheerleaders with pom-poms at hyper speed, you know?
Yeah, and I agree with that, and at this point that's entirely possible, just like I always say, using a backing of magnetism, so there's a magnetic field wrapping through it that is manipulated, that changes all the colors. Then because magnetism is a continuous frequency as well, then it's contained as well as containing the lasers and the ions from them, and then it reacts as fast as magnetism reacts, which is infinite. It's the cosmic reaction of all the planets. Its speed is infinite.
Well, the microcosm of magnetism is smaller than anything else, so hence, yeah, it's infinite.
Yeah, my point here is this, that I guess I'm trying to come up with a summary. Depending upon what you need, gases are always superior, and you can put upper atmosphere gases, say they explode with too high of a reaction of a particular type of butane. Well, you can put all of those, because they're all in the upper atmosphere, in one separate layer if they'll blow up. So you at least have one layer of separation with the lasers going through both of those. And then you have even more gases to ionize, react every direction, like how neon tubes, you can put all sorts of upper atmosphere gases in them, or even lower, like oxygen, and they just work.
Or
and you can just
here's
adjust
another
with magnetism those colors.
Here's another technology. You can have blacklight lasers that, you know how there's like reverse scale film that you turn back into color, you know, like old pictures. Well, if the laser is doing that instead, then as soon as it hits any medium that will reverse that back into like normal direction, itself, like the gas, and maybe an orange layer in addition with it or in front of it, that'll automatically pull it back into color, and zowie wowie, the glowy colors will make your eyeballs melt like SpongeBob.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that would be the most effective, because there's nothing stepping it down. Because what we're saying here is, for people that have eye pain and strain and stuff, you may want these limiting, you know, factors. But for movie theaters and movie theater editing for side screens, you know, in 40x and in ScreenX being the side screens,
where you're wearing
the top and bottom too, 5DX, 60x, every direction DX, Omnisphere. Then you have the brightest colors, so that any 3D movie, because the limitation's always been not anything that you think it is. I guess you can talk about this.
Wait, what were you talking about? Sorry.
Oh, I was talking about the brightness levels, and how that's what's limiting certain, like, color reactions of 3D glasses, is that it's too dark.
Yeah. So if the screen's brighter, and you're supposed to have your glasses down, otherwise it'll, you know, bake your eyes, you know. Not instantly, maybe, you know. It's not like looking at a welder.
It's non-directed.
Yeah, the whole presentation, though, of screens in theaters in the future, you have to have your ionized glasses, you know. I really like the idea, because I'm, you know, megalomaniacal, I guess, that, eventually there would be chips in the screens of the glasses themselves. You know, like Google Glasses did this back in 2011, and then it only came out for a little while, and everybody who invented it died, and nobody knew what they were doing. So it's been delayed again, and so, like, what I'm saying is those glasses, they ionize themselves with, okay, the glass is crystal. It's not regular, you know, glass. So then it just... with a chip on the side, you know, sends electro signal into the crystals, and the wavelength of electrolysis, you know, there's wavelengths to signals, right? Well, when that goes into a crystal, depending upon the wavelength, it will go through that crystal a different angle and give you a different color mirage.
Yeah,
that's what it's doing.
So you're saying that's a superior version of those cut lines where there's only a few angles for dolphin posters.
Yeah.
Because it's more dynamic, and then they don't have to worry about it as much, and it's automatic, and you can just move the camera how you want and not prioritize it as much for anything.
Exactly. So
my response to that is, yeah, but I would say that they should have a thin layer of butane, because butane, like, is just a gas, is cheap.
Yeah.
And then in between the crystals, so the surface is shooting electricity along it, but the gas is also reacting within it to bolster the color even more.
Yeah. So, I always think that, you know, everything's too hard on people's eyes when it's crystals, no matter what, because they got pussy eyes. So we need polymers, like, from plants to advance, like, say, pineapple polymer, different, you get all the fruit polymers and mix them, and woo boy, you'll get some amazing colors refracting out of those if you apply those to screen
because at
science.
first we just talked about orange polymer because there's so much in the citrus peel, but there's so much in pineapple and every plant, really, and fruit, especially these days, to contain the acids.
Yeah.
That you should definitely mix all of them. But pineapple is a great, bright, golden sunlight-like color. Everybody says so, the golden part of it.
Yeah.
And it creates really lush forest jungle green, so it's really naturalistic.
Yep. So what I'm saying is you electrolyze polymers on different wavelengths to create different color signals in your glasses, and that allows for layered 3D appearance of, like, something coming out of the screen at you as you move your head around. It tracks with your own cell phones, you know.
Well, I mean, if the ionized light is bright enough, then couldn't you have the reaction be reversed in the glasses? I'm just saying potentially.
Sorry.
In the glasses.
I didn't. The cell phone thing, that's another topic. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and then the glasses react to the light. You see what I mean? Still with an ionic charge, but less of so, because it's like their battery cells. You know, like how a CCD polymer already is, you know, taking in light and has little bits of metal in it that's reflecting it around.
Yeah.
Well, then that allows for, you know, because it's so bright anyways, to sort of charge and power it itself. Then you only need a little small, like, watch battery or something in there. And that might be better because then you don't have that issue with syncing and all that stuff.
Well, if you have... Here's the ultimate thing that's going to happen for everybody to see shit again. Gray-to-gray screens. Then your glasses ionize it into color. Then you have the polymer that, like, from the fruit. So then it, like, protects your eyes and gives it 3D depth, because you can, like, have it however many layers and thickness or whatever of polymer, because, like, I always go back to laser printing into crystal or polymer or anything, like 3D scenes posed, you know, you can buy those, you know, at the store or whatever. Well, it's just doing that, but through putting in color and putting in a tiny bit of energy, so everything glows at different depths. But because it's natural polymer, it doesn't hurt your eyes, you know?
Yeah, so I was just saying, if you had concentrated enough lasers through gas that's even gray to gray or chromatically colored, whatever method, whatever amount of money this all equals out to, that's why I'm coming up with every different category, also because fuck you, pay me and I own everything, then you can achieve an effect that's for a particular audience's eyes, and this is where it comes into us saying that I'd like it if we took the eye doctors out of the stupid stores, at least to some extent, like Walmart and things, and instead you have them in the movie theater in a small, like, booth or, like, area for them, where, you know, during like especially premieres and stuff, they'll ask you about your eye issues. They'll advise a type of screen and explain to you all the things that you don't understand about what we're describing now when people build these screens. And then you can understand what screen to take home for the movie you just enjoyed, for example, and make a purchase, you know, like online at their store of whatever screen you prefer and whatever method of 3D glasses for home release.
And so I think it's funny because as a person making up the scripts, I do it through very different from when I'm writing a book. Just the feeling, the tone of what I'm trying to elicit in the imagination of the person with my words. So I don't want to write it all down. So that's a color thing. So, like, say Marvel, we have a bunch of Multiverse of Madness movies coming out. And there'll be different theaters that say, haha, we have even newer screens from this year with even more refined purples for this movie. And then that pushes things in that category. Other people want to make movies with those same cameras and looks and stuff. And then it maybe will fade in comparison to popularity of something else. And this can all happen as new technologies take prominence and then fade. So there'll be so many different screens that it's like, you know, the Barbie world, you know? Who has the screen? You know, whose friend has the screen in their house that's best for watching whatever movie or sporting event, you know?
And I might as well repeat it again because I am rather pleased with what we did. Like I said, the Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness has this CCD sort of orange look from the orange cam that we got at the beginning and at various parts a little bit through it, but it mostly goes into that butane, like, 5x concentrate look or 7x concentrate look for most of it. But for future releases, we may go for like certain scenes where it's darker,
like
blue and black.
When they're in the more empty areas of the innerverse, multiverse zone, they could be really spooky dark colors.
That's what I was saying.
Then they stand out all starkly glowing compared to the other darker colors, you know?
Yeah, as you hit them with actual black lights to where they're all blue and their teeth are all shiny. We have so many ideas, and the whole point of Marvel, which is why we were enthused to come up with ideas for it because I'm so bored, is just because then we get to see really bright, shiny colors, and kids love that shit, and adults do too because they're all kid, adult, man, children, fuck you guys, pay me. And then there's infinite experimentation within light and colors. And as you know, light is what makes the world work. The stars breathe life out into the planets in the universe, wrapping them in magnetism and chromatic aberration, giving them the ability to exist with all their gases, all through light. Everything is light at the end of the day. Nothing is not light if it exists
Well, like
at all.
I said before, light streaming from a sun to a planet. The more alive the planet is, the more various gas particles, the harder the internet connection is, which is just all those particles streaming in so quick that they're like sandwich platters. And that creates new gas condensing out of light into gas particles of like stable elements.
Even new light-based metals like platinum. That's just platters of light.
Yep.
Shifting evenly as heat and cold hits it. It changes. It morphs. It exists.
Yeah, that's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, so platinum's very useful. We've already talked about how platinum and black light creates gray to gray, and that's a good type of screen, and other methods of gray to gray. But we're not here to talk about that. We were mostly here to talk about butane.
Well, yeah, like this here may be primarily or partially having platinum ions that are doing the rainbowing here.
Because it's so stepped up that it's starting to platter the light itself because it's so compressed.
Yeah.
I agree. Butane is many elements from sand and soil, and in a place like this called the Gem Valley, or wherever, the Treasure Valley, the treasure is all the individual sand particulates. That's what they're useful for, as computing processors, for You know,
And see,
all that type of stuff. The gas is useful too. There's not enough. You never concentrate it without just using it in its actual form in some way.
I have this problem where they keep saying these words like supposedly so much money, billions or trillions of dollars is being invested in Micron or Microsoft or these other companies that are working here in the Treasure Valley. But then I go around and look, and nothing's going on.
It's all abandoned. You can go over there. It's abandoned.
And so I know eventually things will get underway, but it's just annoying that everything gets announced early, and things are so wrong that, like, I never knew MPC was there. Micron PC, that big building.
Until it was already closing for...
Yeah.
Or closing
Even
because
though
nobody's there to work at it, which is the real thing that everything always does. It's just the facilities to do things.
Even though it's a place that I would have worked at. And, I mean, I can briefly tell the story. I tried to go in there, put down $500, because they acted like only Asian businessmen were there to buy used stuff that at that point was all phasing out for new lineups of technology that was more radiation resistant again in certain new ways for new processing. And they didn't care. They just wanted to act like they were businessmen, even though they had crossed eyes. And they thought I worked at the place, and they just for sure said I looked like a guy that they'd seen who'd worked there. And I went there a couple days early and was hanging around. And because I was going to get some touch screens. And so they just said, nope, we're suddenly making you bid on 3 touch screens at once. We're ignoring your bid. All through the auspice that I'm not allowed to purchase things because I work there, even though I'd only heard of the building, several months before. It's absurd.
So do they know something I don't? Were you actually working there? You know what I'm saying? Maybe you should just pretend that I was always working somewhere and just send me an email and say that I should come into work at, whatever, HP in Boise, and that you're reopening it and that you're building another building. And then I can go in there and talk about this shit and have people write it down and stenographer it desperately into simpler words for you retarded AI degenerates. Now, what do I mean by AI? I mean artifice of intelligence. You see, you fuckers are so stupid that you don't understand that AI doesn't necessarily mean robot. It doesn't necessarily mean not real. It means artifice. Art. Like, it's an art to how much you're faking, like when you go to college, that you know what your degree is. It's almost an art, except I don't actually think it is. While you're actually fucking retarded and all you know is bulletin points that make you sound smart.
Yeah.
So, when I say that somebody's a fucking robot, and I've heard them repeating it about every infant that's yet to be born, and anybody making anything better than them that they're jealous of, my response is, you will quickly slip below the level of intelligence you used to have by breaking down your own bodies, because that's over and you're just dying now completely, all of society. And you won't have any more cycling methane that you pretend is brain cells to feed into your other brain cells with massive sped up tornadoes of light like I know you degenerates do. You won't have those processes anymore, and you'll go back to being bumpkin fucking retards. The artifice will drop, and you won't have any intelligence. Fuck you.
Well, they admitted that all they were doing was using artificial colors, drugs, sensations of all kinds of existence to make themselves as disconnected from all existence as possible. And then, they get into a state where, whether they're ghost fully or not, they think they can just attack people for whatever reason, because nothing's really real anymore to them.
Yeah.
I hate artificial colors, flavors, and all that bullshit.
What have we already talked about? When you start sinking down to that lowest red wavelength, your brain works slower and slower while you think you're smart, because you're also breaking down your brain into methane, butane, and other gases. And then you're really fucking stupid, but you say that you're smart and handsome, because even though your face is pockmarked and rotting, your skin layers are in terrible condition, you have gray around your eyes and genitals, there's no flow of blood or lymph or enough water concentrated through your own body's organs to make any of your organs function or anything. You think you're smart because you have a whole head of hair that's based on protein chains in your own body breaking down and coming out of your rotting skull and brain. Then you say that people that have hair loss or something stupid aren't as smart. I know that's the type of shit you do. Once again, this is an artifice of your own pretense of intelligence. When in reality, most people, the reason that they lose their hair when they're not a degenerate is just due to their skull growing wrong. Look at the Captain Picard actor, I forget his name. His skull, because he took too many Willow steroids, he just opening up a can of, not a can, a package of real bare aspirin and popping those Willowroids every 5 seconds so he can think better. Everybody says he's, you know, like a savant of certain types of intelligence. He can speak well, but like he already admitted in an interview himself, and my brother here said for him to shut the fuck up as he was even looking at it, because he was like acknowledging, and see, this is what I really don't like, just say my name, god damn it. I'm not he who must not be named from Harry Potter that you fucking created out of us creating Harry Potter shit now. I'm a man with a name and a big old juicy penis, and you need to pay me and fuck me. Well, he just said, oh man, his penis grew so much that when he went to his doctor, he just said, oh, it's grown beyond the limitations due to your steroid abuse, where you have any foreskin, but you are not circumcised. It's the same as his skull. It's grown beyond the limits where it can produce hair.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean he's bald truly. It doesn't mean he ruined his brain and the nerve connections to it truly. They're pinched off by his skull squeezing his skin, and you can see that. There's not enough flow.
Yeah, yeah, I just like to point out to everyone, it wasn't our intention that the Red Witch, Scarlet Witch, whatever, has killed him back where he came from. You know, he wasn't actually there part of the Illuminati, right? The Illuminati work off of, you know, illumination tricks of energy. So those characters that were supposedly Illuminati characters, we'll get into it later, are sick in the head, poisoned in various ways, and he comes in that's proving how crazy they are, because they just keep talking about balances of power. They're nuts. They're illogical. There's one side of their brains firing one color at the other, one back and forth.
Yeah, because they have fake chrominance and luminance off of the dyes in them. You could even explain it by defeating demon evil that puts blackness into them, that tries to reflect and tries to create crystals of nothing in between reality.
They become narrow channels of thought of their most extreme personality traits.
Because they're not truly filled with light anymore. They're dying.
Yeah, they're cancerous.
Which explains why that guy from The Office, why he was so out of shape as Plastic Man, otherwise known as just out of shape.
Because we just said he'll immediately, because I know who he is. He immediately, before you even get in shape, because he thought the movie was going to come out immediately in 2017, he just jumped in out of shape and did it, which I knew he would, so it was hilarious. And he's going to die immediately in it anyways, because he thinks that he'll get to be in whatever, because he'll get in such good shape into the future, that he'll get to play Big Tuna, he'll get to play, you know, Reed Richards in Fantastic Four movie or something. I don't even really care. I don't know.
I have a brother named Reed Richardson.
Yeah, I mean, my brother's named Reed Richardson, and I was kind of thinking the role was for him. I don't know if Reed exists in good enough health to do that, though.
Yeah, exactly. He might have died. He ate stupid diet fads over and over again while living far away from me and never visited, and he doesn't plan on it, apparently. I might as well bring this up here, because it's just, I love personal blogging after making up technology. It cools down my brain. Like, Reed, supposedly he's been calling on the phone recently, but not saying any details. It's like a scam guy. So, like, supposedly he's in Vegas, so I just said, hey, I'm not going to talk to fake Reed on the phone, but I could go down and visit him in Vegas, and that made the guy really uncomfortable. So I just said, send me an email. So I get a short email that says, sup? And I'm like, yeah, whatever, okay. So I just say, I heard, you know, the one thing you mentioned to my grandparents is that, you know, you're a big proponent of Eastern religion, so I just want you to know
that my penis owns Eastern religion. So, like, I said a few other things, but the point is, there's been no email since then, because I was really friendly. It's like joking, you know, right? And, like, I said to, you know, congratulate me on my awesome YouTube channel videos. And I noticed it's the easiest way to get rid of malcontents is to just say, nope, the first thing you have to say to me is congratulating me on how cool I am. Then I'll talk to you and congratulate you on how cool you are. You see?
But people don't like exchanging compliments. They exist in such a negative world that the Eastern religion that he's referring to wouldn't support, whether it's from Buddha to anyone else, that it's absurd.
Taoism.
You know, the teachings of Buddha are that of, like, be braggartly about the positives of your own achievements. Don't be negatively braggartly.
No, like the concept of Buddha that we're going to get into in our movie, of course, of ancient Chinese movie, is that he says be big in every way that you can, so then all the other things get shoved out. Like,
because if Eastern religion is a religion of sharing your existence with somebody, sharing your happiness, your love, your passions, and, you know, having large sexuality, then what Ammon said is not against Eastern religion. In fact, it's positive towards Eastern religion. Why wouldn't you say your penis owns Eastern religion, lol, 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 lol? If you're upset by that, you're not obeying the teachings of Buddha, let alone other teachings.
Yeah, right. All the ancient wise, you know, confessors, not professors.
Yes. They confess to passions. They don't profess at you.
Yeah.
They're not a prophet. Buddha was not a prophet. Gandhi wasn't even a prophet after being tortured for being legalistic and starving.
Yeah, he's the equivalent of a modern day, you know, cool guy. Because, like, he had to get tortured first, instead of just torturing himself with, like, eating too much.
Yeah, exactly. So, the point here is...
It's kind of the exact opposite of Buddha.
You see what I mean? It's kind of like Hinduism and Buddhism. They're not really meshing.
Yeah.
Just saying.
And then they made up all this stuff that there was supposedly other groups that weren't meshing, but I'm pretty sure that all that was bullshit. And after the 70s and, like, everybody, like, died of horrible things, the population did get smaller even in India and Africa in the 70s too. And so then all those other weird sects and behaviors were smaller, and then it was just the big two, you know?
Yeah, and I don't know what the Dalai Lama has to do with anything. He's just like the equivalency of a pointed up pope of Vatican City. That seems kind of corruptible and very corrupted.
Yeah, so, that religion connected to the Dalai Lama, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I talk to the people, of course, and it's like, the Dalai Lama's not anything to them. That's just something people say so that, you know, every religion is corrupted or something. Because for some reason I can't even think of the name of that religion right now. But whatever.
Is it Taoism?
No, I just said that a minute ago.
Oh, okay. Well, the point is, I don't really consider it a religion because I've seen, you have to realize, I watched even on TV, it was televised in this 20 years, multiple appearances from the Dalai Lama with Obama, George Bush Jr., and every time, because it was the same man, because supposedly they, you know, haven't replaced him yet because he's like the Pope, which I don't really approve of. That's like a cabinet in a governance system.
Well, what they're blocking is
he just speaks things that are against Buddhism or even Gandhiism, whatever you call that.
But, like,
in between saying reasonable things.
I'm sorry, but there just are people hanging out above the forests of China and South America on different mountains, and they wear robes, and they train their genitals and minds and stomachs and all this bullshit because it's fun, and they have it easy, so then they live hard, supposedly, you know, building up their bodies.
Yeah, well, people, because they're so bizarre, donate food from down in the valleys to them, bring it to them because they want to see what more insane bullshit they're going to do today.
It's entertaining.
Let's be real.
So, that's always been encouraged by any society because it's good for... Because it's like, you never know when you need people who, like, have specialties that are extreme.
Yeah, like what if I need to call on those monks, right? I'm like, we need an epic porno, right?
Yeah.
I need you to stay and fuck somebody, and it's for spiritualism and religion. It's the greatest romance story ever told. Who's your strongest 5 monks to play like the soldiers in some movie for peace in a land, you know, besieged by evils that corrupt people's minds to fuck these women? Who can I get, right? Well, then their purpose is fulfilled, you see.
Well, I gotta say, like, come on. The whole point of modern society, I don't know why we're doing this in this stream, but it's funny, I guess, was, like, purity through everybody being artificial. So, like, yeah, there's, like, those monks, and on the other hand, I know it's waned and gained, like, notice, but there are, you know, on the other hand, women doing it, like, you know, say they're nuns or something, and that's not just a fetish, it's not just a profession of, like, you know, being a nun and then you're part of a church.
You take the herbs to stimulate your erogenous zones, you train them like a woman would, just like a man would.
Yeah, so the point here is, I don't know what everything is going on, but, you know, I got a pretty good idea. And it says in different holy books that there'll be the great, you know, marriage, the recombining, whatever. And that's just saying that people that can't seem to find a love life will finally find one, and more than they even bargained for, hopefully. And that is heaven. Like, come on. Like,
in order to be able to meditate on your own thoughts, because meditation is a word, it means to contemplate. It doesn't mean empty your mind. This is kind of separate again. Those are two different things. So, in order to meditate, you have to be in a state where your body's flowing, your hormones are satiated, and so sexuality is the way that you do that in a reasonable fashion. You know what I mean?
yeah. See, the thing is, Native Americans meditate when they run, as they're falling asleep, while they eat, when they take a shower, and that's just what I am, so
You let your thoughts flow
freakish.
continuously. You're contemplating everything around you, and it all comes into the concepts of, for example, these screens we're talking about, or this religion we're talking about, or anything.
yeah, I'm not sure if it's in Marvel, maybe, or something else, but yeah, we really need to have, like, a bunch of, like, nuns or nun equivalents fucking, like, because there are the nun equivalent over there in Asia somewhat. They wear, like, blue more. We were looking at it the other day.
Yeah.
And, like, we need a bunch of, like, highly trained sex professionals to, like, come together with maximum genital juice and make delicious porn for the masses to understand that, you know, sexuality and babies is really fun, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be negative. It doesn't have to have a negative context. It doesn't have to be onerous and horrible.
Yeah.
It can be happy. It can be loving. You can feel love out of even the concept of wanting to reproduce, and you don't have to be negative about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously, I'll be getting into making more movies about different types of, you know, friend and family dynamics and how children could be raised so that everybody, you know, gets the right balance. Like, going to school and sitting there while a teacher drones at the kids and secretly rubs their nipples and says, haha, I got these kids' attention all day. Then they have to go home. Then they aren't connected to their parents in any meaningful way. What a terrible system.
And everybody always was saying this in the past. They were always saying this, let alone the sicknesses that accrue as everybody's too confined and close to each other.
So, yeah, if we, you know, everybody's such creatures of habit societally worldwide, it seems like. There's a caliphate of stupidity. They all eat the same brands. It's over, man. So, you can't stop it. The world government is everyone's brains. So, with that in mind, we have to come up with solutions with appealing movies that make people understand simply with actions they can shift altogether easily.
And one of which is maybe you should make parks with so many herbs in them, so many bushes that have grown so large each year, so much health, that because it's also in the open air and you're underneath trees, that your children spend time there, show like at the bandstand, show off their talents and do things, have their you know how the same as in a class when they're young enough, they do show and tell. They do that, but in a park of true beauty and health. So then you have the opportunity not to just be in a building breathing the same air, recycled, all of these different things, like a dog park, but for children. I always say this: love your pets like you love your children, and love your children like you love your pets.
Yeah, and you'll be amazed at how much I've already seen in a few generations. Say, you know, your grandchildren, they'll be adults in a world where the North Pole will be an enormous forest of every type of tree planted evenly with different herb bushes and even animal mixtures that are all tamed by the what they eat in the area. And you know, that's closer to heaven than anything else, I guess. I'm willing to show anybody who asks a vision of that, you know. I'll show it off in a Marvel movie. I don't care.
Yeah, so I guess in closing, my point is just this. When you say Eastern religion, it's very vague because Buddhism and Hinduism are separate. They don't actually combine. And then there's also the concept of various animal temples in China and Japan because they are the same culture. And within that, the concept of, it's not just in Legend of Zelda, it actually exists. The three goddesses, wisdom, courage, and power. Chlorophyll green, the life and light of plants coming off of them, being courage. Wisdom being the, I don't remember what cow color.
Well, cow rage, courage, you know, it's a little pun, you know, because cows get the most chlorophyll out of plants.
Yeah, so they're all locked in a cycle of supporting each other, the triune goddesses. And then there's the one that's power, which is red, flame, strength, vitality, you know, sexual might, the ability to, you know, do and exist in the world. And that in and of itself is a separate Eastern religion. So when you say Eastern religion, what are you talking about? Are you talking about the temple that Miyamoto went to for fertility, the Fox Temple, where he passed through many gold rings? Or are you talking about...
You have to remember that all of these religions are subsets to the sun worship religion that directly these nuns over there with the blue and silver robes, they have sun wheels on their forehead, white pieces. It's all Egyptian originally because that's just an older recognized religious state, and Germans support it directly, so that's why there was a connection between Germans and Japan religiously that everybody blows out of proportion when it comes to World War II. What, you're gonna fight big titty nuns? I don't think so.
I think you'll get the local populace pretty angry at you for that one. The point is this: sun wheels, even if they're simplified into squares, are not a sign of Nazism necessarily. You go to the east and start calling everybody a Nazi and they'll start punching you.
There's swastika temple signs all over anywhere, any Asian area, even islands. Swastika temples. It just shows a swastika, and that's a sun religion temple in general.
And like I said, what does this all have to do with? Light from the sun creates the gases in the atmosphere. It shapes the planets. It gives them magnetism. It gives the planets the things that they need. It gives the chlorophyll its gold that turns to green and other colors, pink, green, anything, filtered through the atmosphere in spiraling light.
And they're actually... Scientists are actually lying. There's an external ionosphere of the sun that has solar flares. And that's what they call the surface of the sun.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's an external magnetosphere. And the actual sun is a brighter prick of light streaming out light to that external surface at different angles.
Yeah.
It's a giant magnetic ball always shifting and reacting to other magnetic balls in space.
And that's what stars are. They take on different colors, different energies, and they are unique.
And nobody seems to notice because their entire brains are instantly saturated by the star's new radiance. and just accept it moment to moment.
But
And-
it's been different colors throughout the years, even while I've lived. It's seemed farther away in blue, burning more hydrogen light. It's been anything.
At a certain point, we had a summer where it looked so far away, I swear to God, it was like we were on Pluto, you know?
That's depression itself.
I don't like living on Pluto. The gas is so, like, tangy. I don't
Yeah.
like it.
No, thank you. I'll stick without the freezing nitrates very much. Thank you very much. Stop eating beef nitrates. That's the end of the stream, I guess.